I used to believe that if someone really listened closely enough, they could hear the sound a life makes before it breaks. Not the loud kind of breaking. Not the kind that announces itself with chaos or screaming or slammed doors. I mean the quiet kind. The kind that happens while the world keeps moving. While people keep laughing. While routines stay intact. While a child still goes to school and does their homework and says, "I'm fine," because that's the only language they know. I was 12 when my life learned that sound. Before that, my world was small. Not perfect. Not rich. But safe enough that I didn't know to be afraid. My parents were the kind of people who believed that love, if consistent, could shield a child from most things. They didn't say it out loud. They lived it. In packed lunches. In reminders to text when I arrived somewhere. In arguments that ended quietly because neither of them wanted to go to bed angry. I thought that was how life worked. You argued, you forgave, you stayed. Then came the crash. People still lower their voices when they talk about it, as if the volume might somehow disturb the dead. A horrific accident, they said. Instant, they said. As if the speed of it was meant to be comforting. As if knowing there was no time for pain could somehow erase the fact that there was no time for goodbye. I remember the room where I was told. The way the air felt thicker after the words landed. The way adults avoided my eyes, like grief was contagious. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I nodded. I thanked them. I remember thinking that I was being very mature about it. That was the first illusion I learned to survive with. After the funeral, people made promises. They always do. You'll be okay. We'll look after you. You're strong. You're not alone. What they don't tell you is that promises made in shock have an expiration date. I moved homes the way some people change seasons. One place to another. Bags never fully unpacked. Bedrooms that never quite felt like mine. Different rules. Different expectations. Different versions of who I was supposed to be grateful to become. At first, I tried to be perfect. Quiet. Helpful. Easy to keep. I thought if I took up less space, I would be less likely to be sent away again. I learned to read moods the way other kids learn maths. I knew when to speak and when silence was safer. I knew when a smile could defuse tension and when it would make things worse. It was in one of those homes that the second crack formed. It didn't begin with violence. It never does. It began with attention, with concern that lingered a second too long, with touches that could be explained away, with compliments that made my skin crawl but my mouth stay shut. I didn't have language for what was happening. I only knew how it made me feel. Small. Confused. Ashamed of something I couldn't name. I told myself I was imagining it, that I was being dramatic, that after everything I'd been through, my mind was probably just broken in some invisible way. When it escalated, it did so quietly, behind closed doors, in moments designed to leave no witnesses and no proof. I learned then how isolation can be engineered, how fear can be disguised as care, how a child can be made to feel responsible for an adult's wrongdoing without a single threat ever being spoken aloud. I didn't tell anyone. Part of me believed no one would listen. Another part believed that even if they did, the cost would be worse than the silence. I had already lost my parents. I had already been passed around like a problem no one asked to inherit. I didn't want to be the reason another home fell apart. So I carried it. And when I was moved again, I told myself it was over, that it belonged to the past now, that distance alone could heal it. I was wrong. The pattern repeated itself in different forms, different places, different faces. Each time, subtler. Each time, more confusing. Each time, my sense of self eroding just a little more. Trust became something theoretical. Love became something other people talked about. I grew older, but not in the way people mean when they say it. My body aged. My mind adapted. But some part of me stayed frozen in that early loss, still waiting for someone to come back and make things make sense again. From the outside, I looked fine. I learned how to perform stability. I learned how to be agreeable, resilient, unremarkable. Teachers praised my maturity. Friends admired my strength. I accepted the compliments without ever feeling them land. Inside, I was exhausted. By the time I reached adulthood, I had a strange relationship with hope. I wanted it desperately, but I didn't trust it. Every good thing felt temporary. Every kindness felt conditional. Every connection felt like something that could be revoked without warning. Still, I tried. I tried to believe in love. I tried to let people get close. I tried to convince myself that the past was just that, past. I told myself that not everyone leaves, that not everyone hurts you, that not every safe place turns out to be a lie. But my body remembered what my mind tried to forget. I flinched at tone changes. I shut down during conflict. I over-explained myself. I apologized for things that weren't my fault. I expected abandonment the way some people expect sunrise. And then came the realization. Not a dramatic one. Not a confrontation. Just a quiet moment of clarity that arrived without permission. I was sitting alone one evening, long after the day had ended, staring at nothing in particular. And it hit me that I didn't actually trust anyone in my life. Not fully. Not deeply. Not in the way trust is supposed to exist. I loved people, yes. I cared. I showed up. But there was always a part of me watching, waiting, prepared to detach at the first sign of danger. I had built my entire identity around survival, and somewhere along the way, I had mistaken that for living. That understanding didn't break me. It hollowed me out. I didn't spiral. I didn't confront anyone. I didn't demand explanations from the universe. I simply became very still, very observant. I started noticing how much energy I spent protecting myself from pain that hadn't even arrived yet. I noticed how often I dismissed my own needs, how quickly I minimized my experiences, how deeply I believed that what had happened to me had somehow made me less worthy of gentleness. So I withdrew, not from the world entirely, but inwardly. I stopped trying to prove I was okay. I stopped forcing closeness. I gave myself permission to exist without performing strength. And in that quiet, things began to unravel on their own. Relationships that relied on my silence grew strained. People who benefited from my lack of boundaries became uncomfortable when I started to have them. Systems I had trusted revealed their cracks when I stopped holding them together with my compliance. It was strange, watching it happen without intervening. Like standing on the shore while the tide pulled things away I had once clung to out of fear, not love. There was grief in that. Real grief. For the versions of myself I had abandoned. For the childhood I never got back. For the safety I had deserved and never received. But there was also relief. For the first time, I wasn't blaming myself for what others had done. I wasn't searching for reasons to excuse abuse. I wasn't twisting my memory into something more palatable for other people's comfort. I let the truth exist. Not loudly, not publicly, just honestly. I may never forgive my abusers. I've made peace with that. Forgiveness is not a requirement for healing, no matter how often people insist it is. Some wounds don't need forgiveness. They need distance. They need boundaries. They need acknowledgement. I may never fully recover from everything I've been through. Trauma doesn't disappear just because time passes. It settles. It reshapes you. It teaches your nervous system lessons it never asked to learn. But I am not broken. I am someone who survived things that should have destroyed them. I am someone who learned to navigate a world that did not protect them. I am someone who still hopes, even when hope feels dangerous. These days, my life is quieter. Safer. I choose who gets access to me. I listen to my instincts instead of silencing them. I allow myself rest without guilt. I let love arrive slowly, if it arrives at all. Some nights, the weight of my past still presses down on me. Some mornings, trust still feels like a foreign language. But I no longer confuse my pain with my character. I am not a bad person. I am a person who went through bad things. And somewhere out there, I believe that matters.